What up, y'all? So we have some updates in the Diddy case. Now, I don't know if you've been living under a rock, but the mogul Puff Daddy is under fire and may possibly be investigated by the feds in relation to human trafficking, some drug charges, some weapons charges. So the new update today is Brendan Paul, which is an associate of Diddy. Now, Diddy's camp is saying, hey, Brandon is an assistant of mine. There's nothing malicious going on with Brandon. But here recently, there was a lawsuit brought by Little Rod, and he says Brandon is Diddy's, how should I say this? He's Diddy's supplier. He's the guy who brings all the goodies around, if you know what I mean, the things that kind of take you to cloud nine. Brandon is the guy who brings the product. So Diddy's two homes, one in Miami, one in LA, were raided by the feds. The feds are looking for any type of evidence to put charges on Diddy, right? As they are busting in the homes in Miami, Diddy is on his way out of the country, and they catch him at the airport. When they catch him at the airport, he's with his daughters, assuming he's getting ready to go on spring break. And guess who is with him? His assistant. Now, some people might say, what's wrong with Diddy's assistant? Well, this assistant is allegedly the guy who is the supplier by the name of Brendan Paul. So when they snatch Brendan Paul up, he has a backpack or he has a bag. It's full of things to take you to cloud nine. So they end up taking Brendan to jail. They leave Diddy alone. So my theory has always been they're going to rope Brendan up so Brendan can end up snitching on Diddy. That was always my theory. So today, he has reached a plea deal, and he's a free man. Let's take a look at what the TMZ article says concerning Brendan Paul. All right, so let's read this. Diddy's alleged mule, Brendan Paul, struck a deal in his case because he ain't going to be doing any time behind bars, is what TMZ says. Brendan's attorney, Brian Bieber, tells us that Brendan has accepted the prosecutor's office to permit his entry into the diversion program, which after completion, the case against him will be dismissed in its entirety. Sounds about right. A rep for the Miami-Dade state attorney confirms this as well, telling TMZ this was a standard offer to a non-violent defendant with no priors who was arrested for a possession case instead of a much more serious trafficking case. All right, so the Miami-Dade attorney is saying, hey, this is a standard offer. This is what we give people who have no prior offenses. He had some things on him, but it was just a simple possession charge. Now, when Brendan was indicted, he was indicted with 2 felonies. One was possession of snow, is what I'll say. And the other one was like some edibles, right? In a normal circumstance, I would say, yeah, you know, some states do have like a first offenders situation where if it's your first try, we're not going to hem you up too bad. All right, cool. I get that. What's tricky to me about this Brandon case is the timing of it all. All right. Let me give you a timeline. Brandon was arrested around March 24th, took him to jail. He was released pretty quick, like within a day or so. All right. Fast forward to a month later, around April 14th, that's when he was indicted. So his charges were officially brought on that day. Today is May 16th. In 4 weeks, Brendan has been indicted and granted a plea deal. Now, that's pretty quick to me. Because think about it. Even if you get a speeding ticket, it takes 30 days for you to go to court. This man was able to strike a deal within 3 to 4 weeks. I don't know. It's a little fishy to me. Everything might be legit, but something in me tells me he might be talking to the feds. But something to wrap up this quick, I'm side-eyeing it. Let's finish reading. The rep confirms Brendan has enrolled in a drug diversion program, which should last about 6 months. Technically, the case and charge are still pending until the course is completed, but there will be no jail time or probation if Brendan completes the course without issue. This seems like a best-case scenario for Brendan, who was charged with a felony drug charge in April. TMZ broke the story. Brandon was slapped with 1 felony count of drug possession following his March arrest at the Miami Opelika Executive Airport. Brandon, who previously worked as Diddy's main assistant, was booked after authorities allegedly found some snow and marijuana candy in his bag during a search. The arrest notably occurred at around the same time as raids on the rap mogul's Los Angeles and Miami homes as part of an investigation into recent allegations of trafficking, weapons possession, and more. Diddy, who has faced bombshell claims in 5 different civil lawsuits, all of which he's denied, was not detained following the raids. His attorney, Aaron Dyer, maintained his client's innocence, slamming the raids as an excessive show of force. I don't know, y'all. I don't know. You never know what the feds have going on. If y'all remember when Cassie brought the allegations to Diddy, there were some leaks that New York was investigating Diddy at the time. The state of New York came out and was like, no, we're not investigating Diddy. This is completely civil. No, that's horrible. Don't say that. But come to find out, he was being investigated. He was being investigated by the feds out of the District of New York. It feels like to me there was a deal cut. Now, I might be wrong. This may all be legitimate. What I will say is I am in the South, and this has been the fastest charge of possession and striking a deal that I have ever seen. You know what? I even reached out to a couple of my attorney buddies. Let me pull the messages up. So I was talking to one of my lawyer friends, and I was like, yo, this happened very quickly. What's your opinion on this? And he was like, Aim, I don't really know. I don't work in that district, but the speed strongly suggests there may be some cooperation going on. This has happened very quickly. We're talking like, via DM. So this is what he also said. He's like, yo, I'll give you my thought process. He pretty much stated in 3 weeks, I would not have even gotten all of the discovery to know how fucked my client is, or even to really argue the merits of the case to get a good deal with the government. So what could a defense attorney know in less than 3 weeks that can get your client a non-jail offer when you don't even have discovery? Like this isn't decided by the prosecutor handling the case. This type of offer has to run up the ladder. So how and why would it move so fast? To your point about 30 days on a traffic ticket, the government doesn't move fast for no one but themselves. So why would they give a non-jail offer in 3 weeks? From my experience, something had to be given to get this. My experience is from a completely different jurisdiction. So you have to take my thought process with a grain of salt. So he pretty much was being honest, like, yo, I don't work down in Florida. I don't really know how they work, but for them to push this paperwork through in 3 weeks, it's something that can lend itself to maybe there's some cooperation going on, all right? I've said from day one that this kid can be the icing on the cake because right now, Cassie is the mother of all dragons. She's going to be the one to like really set this on fire and bring it down. But the feds always want to have a tight case. So they want to have as many people testifying as possible. They also want to have as much evidence as possible. So when you have a lawsuit saying, hey, Brendan Paul is the supplier, and when you happen to bust Diddy at the airport with the supplier, and the supplier happens to have supplies on him, hey, listen, people did not listen when we said Tekashi 6ix9ine was going to cooperate. I also said Jonathan Majors popping out with Megan Good is going to force that woman to cooperate. And this kid is 25 years old. If push came to shove, he is 1,000% cooperating with the feds. Now, what is weird about all this to me is this man was arrested at the airport with snow and edibles at the airport. And y'all just let him go with a slap on the wrist? Like, is that normal? Normal from where I'm from. Now, let's look on the brighter side. Let's say everything is legit. Let's say they couldn't get nothing from him. And the state of Florida said, hey, he's a first-time offender. He's a drug user. We're just going to slap him on the wrist. He has no information about Diddy. He knows nothing about Diddy. Hey, if I'm Puff Daddy, I may be home dancing. I may be happy. But a part of me would be a little scared too. So I've also seen other people cover this and they say, hey, it is possession. They didn't get him on trafficking. My question is, why was he not stuck with trafficking? He literally had items in his bag about to board a plane. Wow. Hey, but we'll see. I'm going to keep following this case as I always have. Now, on the flip side, Diddy has had some good news. In one of his lawsuits, in the more recent lawsuit with Lil Rod and Tyrone Blackburn, Lucius Grain, Universal Music Group, I think they've officially been taken out of that lawsuit. You know, they are saying, look, everything this kid is saying is a lie. Get us up out of that lawsuit. So, hey, they've been cleared on that. If I'm Diddy, I might be a little happy and say, hey, this is looking good. It's kind of setting a precedent that this kid may not be fully telling the truth. This is like the second person that's been pulled out of that lawsuit, because if y'all remember, the CEO of Motown Ethiopia, she was pulled out of the lawsuit like a month ago because she said, listen, y'all done put me in places. I was never there. Take me up out of this. So, hey, it's not looking too good for Tyrone Blackburn, you know, throwing all these people in the lawsuit who pretty much is saying, yo, I wasn't even there. Get me up out of this. And you're dealing with some high-powered people when you get to messing around with Lucius Grain. So when you put those type of accusations, you better make sure you have your ducks in a row, because you playing with some heavy hitters, okay, when you start fooling around with Lucius Grains, okay? So, you know, if I'm Diddy, I might be feeling a little good about that Lil Rod lawsuit because, hey, people are getting tossed out left and right, so he might be feeling good about that. He also has another lawsuit, and the allegation was he had taken advantage of a young woman, and he filmed it. And when he filmed it, he kind of sent it around to other people. So in her particular lawsuit, she pretty much had that there was some trafficking and also kind of like revenge P going on. If I'm remembering it correctly, some of those things had to get thrown out because those laws were not put in place back then, especially revenge P, because, you know, that's kind of a fairly new thing within like the past 10 or 15 years with the explosion of the internet and social media and cell phones. So they tried to slide in, hey, Puff Daddy was doing revenge P because he video cammed us doing whatever, and he sent it around to other people. His lawyers is pretty much like, how y'all hemming him up on a crime that didn't even exist back then? So I think some of those things kind of got tossed out too. So Puff Daddy may start to feel a little better about some of these lawsuits, but if I'm him, I'm still nervous as hell because the feds still ran up in your stuff and you don't know who the feds are talking to. So I'll keep doing videos, but that's what I have today. So let me show. Rolling back to Brendan Paul, do you think he is cooperating with the feds, or do you think this is par for the course? Hey, sometimes you get a first offender charge and they just let you go about your business, put you in a diversion program. Hey, this kid ain't even got probation. They giving him a diversion program, and he got all this within 3 to 4 weeks. Y'all think he's like good to go, or y'all think he's snitching? I think he's snitching. Leave your comments below. Thanks for hanging out with me. Peace.